Thank you. Okay, so let's begin. So welcome. This is O week, as you all know. Thank you for coming, guys. My name is Margarita, and I am the new program director in, as you know, biomedical science, medical science, and science. With us, we have today Hilary. She's a lecturer here in chemistry. Is that right? Yeah. She used to be the PD as well. So just like you guys, I'm new in this role and I'm learning as well. So you won't be the only ones learning a lot of things. I'm still learning. I've been in this role for 3 weeks. So it hasn't been a long time. So it's good that we have Hilary here just in case I forget a few things. Also, I just came back from mat leave. So there's a few things that I'm getting back into, like today logging into the virtual room. Things came back slowly, but I got there in the end. So please be patient if a few things get a bit slow. Okay, so what are we doing here today? You are enrolled in one of our courses. So let's move to the next slide because this is being recorded. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to show you a few things you need to know beforehand. Okay? You have enrolled, and before I forget as well, let's acknowledge the non-enrolled people. Faculty of Science and Technology. Let's see if this works. Things. Now that we skip the ads, here we go. There is that lab. Okay, so that was the welcome message from our dean. You will see the dean sometimes walking around the hallways. Sometimes she might pop in into one of your classes, you know, who knows? But yeah, I'm sure you will see her at some point. You'll see Janine. Okay, so who am I? I already told you a little bit about me. Just started this new role. I'm a lecturer at the Faculty of Science and Technology, of course. I'm mainly in the first year units in biological concepts. So there's a chance that if you have enrolled in biological concepts, you will see me again there. Sometimes I'm also in second year units like biostats. And I don't usually do third year units sometimes. So, yes. As I said, I started this role 3 weeks ago, and I would like you to know that if at some point you have any problems or you would like to have a chat, my door is always open. You might have walked past my office. I'm in 3B23, so on your way here, you might have walked past by. Usually I will have a system in place that I'll be using, what's it called, Calendly? Is that correct? Yeah. And then you can book an appointment and then you come to see me. If it's an urgent situation, just send me an email and I'll see what I can do, okay? As a PD, we are usually a bit busy at the beginning of the semester and by the end of the semester. So if for some reason you didn't hear back from me, just feel free to send me another email and I'll follow up on that, okay? Because sometimes we have a lot of emails coming through and it's hard to lose track, okay? Also, what else have I done? Well, I did a Bachelor in Science. I'm from Mexico, so I did my Bachelor there. Then I decided that doing my Bachelor in Biology wasn't enough and I wanted to stay in academia. So I did a Master's in Conservation and Ecology. And then it wasn't enough and I got offered a grant to go to Europe. So I had to do another master's degree. This time I did a little bit more in evolution. Finally, I decided that I wanted to stay in academia. So I did my PhD on the evolution of marsupials. And here I am. I did my PhD at Canberra Uni as well. So I've been here for a while. So some contexts that are useful to know who they are. As you saw, we have the executive dean, that's Janine. Then we have the associate dean, you saw Luke before. Head of school, we have Professor Matt. You will see him as well at some point, I'm sure. PDs, we have 2 PDs, myself, and we have David as well in the environmental science and science area. And a very important thing here, as you can see at the bottom, if you want to send an email, your first contact point is always use that email address there, student inquiries, and then the inquiry will be follow up from there, okay? Because as I said, if sometimes you send an email to our email addresses, we might not be able to see it right away, so it's always handy if you use that email address first, okay? Also, I'm sure you all know where Student Central is now. Anyone knows where Student Central is by now? Building 1? Yeah, Building 1. This is your first stop for any admin inquiry that you have. You will get staff here that will give you assistance. They will refer you to the faculty, staff, student welfare as well. There's an email address, there's a phone number as well, and they will tell you for which faculties, okay? In Student Central as well, you can get help with passwords, setting up your student email account. That's very, very important. All the communications between the student and any unit convener have to be using your student email address, okay? If you use your personal email address, there is a chance that, or actually the convener might not reply, okay? So you might be like, I've sent you 5 emails, what's going on? If you don't use your UC email address, yeah, there's a chance you might not get a reply. Because it's just, we have to follow policy, we have to follow the rules as well, and that's one of them. Okay, so if you don't know how to set up your UC email address, go and talk to people in Student Central in that little IT area. They will be more than happy to help you with that. If you do not know your password, go and talk to them as well. They'll be very helpful. And you need to know also how to use the student portal. You should have your ID card as well by now. Timetable, I'm sure you have all created your own timetable by now. Yeah, so there's a few things that you need to know where they are. If you don't know, just feel free to ask us as well.
There won't be a quiz at the end, guys.
Yeah, don't worry. If it's a lot of information as well and you're like, oh, I'm not sure what you were talking about before, you can always come and talk to us at the end as well. So feel free to do that, because I know what it's like to be bombarded with a lot of information. You can find information about your courses as well, and that can be done online. You can go to the digital handbook, and that will be very handy for you to see all the different options that we have. Course advice. What is course advice? Well, course advice can include a study plan advice, and that's basically part of my role and the education team role as well. So the education team will say, look, we can design this study plan for you. And then my role as a PD is to give the academic input into that and say, yes, this makes sense because of these reasons, or maybe not, let's change this, let's tweak a few things around to make it work for you guys. Okay, so yeah, there could be variations to enrollment, course requirements, or issues with course progress as well. What I mentioned before, communications with the uni, you need to use your email address. So it usually starts with a U and then your student number, and then it's uni.canberra.edu.au. What I mentioned before, how it's done. So just talk to the IT department if you're not too sure which credentials to use. Another very important thing that you will get used to it if you haven't used it before, Canvas. Canvas is your best friend at uni. Why? In Canvas, you will find all the courses that you have enrolled in. Each one of them will have a separate Canvas site. I say that Canvas is going to be your best friend because the unit convener is going to publish announcements in Canvas all the time. In Canvas, yeah, you get announcements, you get your lectures, the lecture slides, the workshop slides, prac slides, everything that will be, I guess, the weekly content or all the content of the uni would be published into each one of the Canvas sites. So make sure that you have already access to the Canvas sites, because by now, most of them should be published, okay? We also have a School of Science course advice and information Canvas site, which you can go to, and then you can check the study plans there, frequently asked questions, and then also there will be announcements related to internships, graduate programs, and networking events. So a lot of things happening in the School of Science. Study skills as well, and some of the units, especially the professional units, study skills will be involved in those units as well, but you can always go and talk to them as well. Study skills will help you with time management, a very important skill when you're at uni, because sometimes it's a skill that you learn as you go, and I'm still learning about time management as well. So if you're doing too many units, how are you going to manage all of those units? And then on top of that, if you work, you need to learn how to manage your time in the most effective way, so they can help you with that. What else do we learn at study skills can help you with? Assessment writing, researching and note-taking, English language skills as well, academic integrity, and referencing. Referencing is an important one as well in a lot of units.
Sorry.
No, that's right.
Yeah, everything's still logged on. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. Health and wellbeing services as well. You have access to this also in Building 1, medical and counseling. If you're not feeling well, you can just go to the doctor there, the medical center, counseling as well. If you feel like your mental health, or if you just want to go and not talk to someone in that way, but if you feel that you need help with your mental health, it's always good and talk to counseling as well. Okay. What else have we got? We have other specialized services. Careers you will see some of them as well in some of those professional units that I was talking about before. Also in Building 1, we have inclusion as well, international students, Nunavut Center, student advocacy, and UCX food pantry. So those are specialized services that you have access to as well.
Margarita, it might just be worth flagging here with Inclusion UC. So they are the team here at UC whereby if you have some kind of physical challenge or mental health challenge, you can register for what we call a reasonable adjustment plan with them. So that might take the form of a student who has hearing challenges, might go and have an adjustment that means that there has to be closed captions or there has to be a microphone available when staff are delivering content to them, but the staff members involved in the units won't necessarily know that in advance. So ideally, if you think that you're in that boat, heading to talk to Inclusion UC going into your semester just means that your unit conveners can basically have those things in place for you all the way through. There's a heap of different supports from something like we just mentioned through to an additional 10 minutes every hour for timed assessments, through to a 7-day extension for assignments, all kinds of things that will support you. So if you're in that boat, you obviously don't have to disclose it to us, but it's definitely worth heading in there sooner rather than later to make sure you've got that set up as you start your study.
That's right. Thank you very much for that. And yeah, it's confidential. So the only one that will know about that will be your unit convener. And the unit convener is not going to be disclosing that information, of course. Okay. So this is an important one that we always recommend you do since the beginning of the semester. So don't let it go halfway of the semester and say, well, I actually needed one of these, because yeah, might be good to start thinking about that now if you need to go there. All of these are Building 1, I think, because the food pantry recently moved, I think, but I think they're still there from memory. We also have a UC Student Mentor Program. What does that mean? Basically, that's someone that is about to finish or that is a graduate already, or has graduated. So we'll give you a hand with things that you need at uni, how all the system works, where to go, who to talk to. So someone that already has had that experience at university will be with you mentoring, okay, helping you. Just like Hilary is doing with me, mentoring me in my PV role now, because I have a lot of questions sometimes. Another good place to go, and you will go there at some point if you haven't been there already, is the Student Resource Center. This is in Building 6, ground floor. Have you been there? Raise your hand if you've been there. If you haven't been there, that's fine.
Can you show us where it is? It's really hard to find.
Yes, I saw a few students lost around that area trying to find that place. That's why I was asking. But yeah, you'll see it has great facilities. Can you recognize that building? I know it's a bit small, that photo, but basically, how do we put it? You got Building 3, and as you walk out of Building 3, basically to your right, you will have Building 6, and then if you go through that, you will have the Student Resource Center. Don't worry if you get lost. A lot of people know where it is, so you can always ask, okay? You can go and chill there, or start working on your assignments, or just have a break or something. So have you built your course? Hopefully you have, and if you haven't, that's fine as well, because that's what we're here for, to help. So basically, we're going to go from units to majors to a degree. So, important dates, I guess, this semester. You all know that next Monday, semester 1 begins officially. On Friday, 9th of February, that is the last day for you to self-enroll into units for this semester. If you couldn't enroll for whatever reason, if you were waiting for credits or anything else happened, you can also do it on the 1st of March. Oh, actually, no, sorry. 1st of March is census date, and that's when you can decide if you don't want to stay in that unit, okay? If you do it by census date, you won't get charged, but if you don't remove that unit and you don't attend to that unit, then yeah, you will be charged for that unit. So it's an important, very important date, census day, okay? So about this one, the last day to self-enroll, you can enroll later on, but at that point we would need approval from the lecturer, okay? So there will be, is there like a specific time frame?
Ideally, you want to do it as soon as possible. One thing, so I'm just going to move over here
No,
so
that's
the mic
fine.
captures it. We say lecturer approval, and it might seem as though your lecturer is being a mean and saying no, but ideally what we're saying is by the end of week 1, you've already missed an entire week's worth of content. Each unit has roughly on average about 10 hours a week study within it. So it means somehow next week for that unit, you've got to fit in 20 hours of study on top of the other 40 hours if you're doing a full-time study load, which is just becoming really challenging for you. So ideally you would have yourself enrolled going into week 1. If you're trying to self-enroll if you're trying to enroll after that first Friday of week 1, you actually have to go and get a signature from a unit convener. That can be challenging because they are on the run, like doing their units. If it gets too far into week 2, generally speaking, it would have to be escalated to Margarita as your PD, and it's just very hard at that stage for us to justify being able to let you in purely because we're putting you at academic risk for failing that unit. So yeah, ideally you would have yourself enrolled in your units going into week 1.
Yep, thank you. Okay, anyone knows what's a unit? What is a unit? Why do we talk about a unit? I'm sure you heard this before. How many units are you enrolled in? 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units, hopefully not more than 4, I'm expecting. But so a unit is a specific subject, and some examples here: biological concepts, chemical foundations. You will be doing some of those units. It usually goes for a semester, and usually it's worth 3 credit points, and it has a code. That's why usually you will hear your unit conveners talking about, oh yeah, unit 11722. And as a PD, I'm supposed to learn all of these codes at some point. But that's why you will hear us talking about numbers. That's what we're referring to, because each unit has a unique code, okay? What are majors and minors? Anyone knows? What's the difference? So when you're doing a major, what you're doing, basically you have a sequence of usually 80 units, which are equivalent to 24 credit points, and you're progressing through different levels, okay? And at some point you need to have at least 1 at a level 3, okay? We also have the option of doing a minor, which is basically half of what you're doing in the major, because you're doing 4 units, 12 credit points, and again, you have a progression through levels, okay? So by the time you complete your course, usually most students will complete the course without doing a minor. Is that sort of clear? So you will go through that as you progress. We can talk about that too. What is your expected workload as a student? Well, 1 unit, 3 credit points. you usually have a workload of 150 hours, okay, on average over the teaching period. So for a typical unit in semester 1 or semester 2, you have 4 contact hours per week, 4 to 8 independent study hours per week at least, and 8 to 12 hours in total per week over 13 weeks. If you are full-time, that's what I was saying, hopefully you're not doing more than 4 units because you're not supposed to. You're doing basically 12 credits. And if you're part-time, you should be doing less than 3 units, okay? So Faculty of Science and Technology, have you all been in building 3? Or 27, or 6, or 12? I've seen some of you walking around trying to get yourself around to know where you're going to be taking some of these units. But again, like we said before, if you get lost, just ask anyone that is around. Anyone will be more than happy to help you guys. We have the school, well, as you know, we have the School of Science. And in the School of Science, we have the Biomedical Science program. We also have Environmental Science, which they're running a session upstairs at the moment. You know this, hopefully you know some of these codes by now as well, to know in which course you have been enrolled in. And with those courses that I just showed you, there are so many different career paths that you can follow. For example, in my case, I was an academic for a while when I finished my PhD, and then I decided to move into the public service. And then I decided to come back into academia, as you can see. So there are many different things that you can do. Sometimes we feel like we have to follow a straight line. And sometimes you feel lost. So feel free to ask us about our different career paths that we have, because none of us follow the same career path, I'm sure. And sometimes you can think, oh, this is what I want to do. I need to follow that line. But then along the way, you find there are other different things you can do as well. And maybe they're better, or maybe you think, yeah, this is not what I was expecting, but I think I want to have a go at this. Okay, so don't be overwhelmed if you don't follow that straight line in your career path, because a lot of things can happen, okay? So some of these career paths here, well, allied health technician, biological scientist, biomed scientist, biotechnologist, science policy officer as well, research officer. So there are many, many different paths that you can follow. They're not all listed here, of course, but yeah, it's just a matter of talking to us as well. And also, if you want to follow a postgraduate career or a path, yeah, you can do honors, you can do masters, you can do a PhD. So what are the strengths of our courses? Why are you here at UC? Well, do you recognize that lab? Is the lab we're here now? That's because, as Janine said in her video, what do we usually do a lot here at UC? We do a lot of practice. So we're having a lot of practical sessions, so you get hands-on basically. And look at this lab as well. It's a very nice setup, as we were discussing before we started this session. So we have nice facilities as well, not just because they look nice, but also because they are efficient, and they will give you that opportunity to have hands-on, okay? Another thing is that we have a lot of academics as well. So there's lots of research going on. And that's why it is important that you talk to your unit conveners, because sometimes they will have, I don't know, if they have a grant, if they have money, sometimes they will give you an opportunity to be a research assistant. So at the time you're getting experience, you're getting paid, and later on that can take you to a different career path. You never know. So that's something maybe to explore as you go. We also have work integrated learning, and you will see these a lot in your unit outlines as well. So what we do here, we have industry engagement within all our different courses, research projects, placements, internships, and that will give you again that experience that you need when you get a job, or if you want to get a job. So some examples here. If you are enrolled in the Bachelor of Science, Biomedical Science, this is usually what your study plan would look like. This is not the best projector because it's a bit hard to see.
It's also for semester 2 starters, I think. So there might be a couple of things thrown right away.
Yeah, I was going to say, and it looks like it's the other way around. Okay, so it's supposed to be the other way around. So this is supposed to be semester 2, and this is semester 1. But usually what we have here is a typical study plan that you will follow. I don't know if you can see what it looks like, especially all the way at the back. Is this similar to those of you who are enrolled in there? Yeah, and if it's not, and if you're concerned, come and talk to us as well. What we recommend in this one, I'm not going to read it all, of course, but just have a look. One unit that is recommended is Foundations of Anatomy and Physiology. And what was the other one here? We'll talk about chemistry in a second. So I have a special slide for that one. Or is there anything else to add in that one?
Just so that guys, that was for specifically for the Bachelor of Science Biomedical Science. So you guys can see you have a core major there, and then a specialist major, and then there's 8 additional units. So all of your courses have 24 units in them altogether. Every single one of you in the room, no matter what course you're doing, does what we call this core major in science. So it's a really cool series of units, some foundational science, so some data analysis, some chemistry, some physics, and some biology, but then also our professionalism units where you get to do the work integrated learning that Margarita was just discussing then. And of course, that means you're going to be embedded with all of the other science students. So you'll also be seeing environmental science students there, the remainder of Biomed Med. We might also have a couple of forensic students still hanging around, so you get to meet those students there. Depending on what course you've chosen, your next major is then unique to that course. So if you're in biomedical science, you have what we call a specialist major in biomedical science, and there's a series of required units that you must undertake for that. If you are in medical science, you've got 2 specialist majors that you undertake, and if you're in regular science, you actually get to choose the specialist major, so you're tailoring it to yourself. But essentially that core major is the same for everyone, and as Margarita just flagged, she's going to have a couple of other points around some assumed knowledge and some required units that you might want to have a look at. All of these are available on our website, the digital handbook, and also through that course advice site. So I strongly recommend either you have a chat to someone before you enroll in your units, or you've had a look at one of those typical study patterns before you allocate into your units, just to make sure you actually are ticking the boxes. It's really heartbreaking when students come to the end of some of their study and they've accidentally taken some units that actually can't be used to course complete them. So not saying that to be scary, all the information is definitely there for you, and if you're ever unsure, just come have a chat, but you definitely want to make sure you're not studying a unit that actually can't help you get to where you want to go.
That's right, because then you'll be doing that unit, and then you find out it wasn't worth in a way. So you don't wanna waste, well, not waste time, but you want to make it as efficient as you can. And it's the same story here with the Bachelor of Medical Science. I think this one is also the other way around. This should be semester 2 and this should be semester 1. And again, we have the core major in science, a specialist major in medical science, and the specialist major in major number 2 in medical science as well. And you can see some of these units as well that I'm sure you're familiar with, some of them, especially these ones here at the top, because that will be your year 1 course. So Same with the Bachelor of Science. This one here, we don't really have a specific study pattern like I've been showing you in the previous ones, because this one will depend on what you want to do, what's going to be your specialist, what do you want to specialize in, okay? And we have different things you can specialize on, like biological science, biomedical science, chemical science, environmental science, human movement, or nutrition studies, okay? And again, all of that information is on our website. This is what I was talking about, and I'm sorry, I know there's a lot of information there, but this is very important, and Hilary can correct me if I'm saying something wrong. So what we have here is chemical concepts, or actually, Hilary, do you want to go ahead? Because she's involved in that unit, so the advice would be if it comes from her.
Sorry. So I'm the convener of Chem Foundations and Chem Concepts. All of you in the room have chemical concepts as a required unit for your course, regardless of which course you're sitting in. And for you starting in semester 1, we actually have that as a required unit running in semester 2. That unit does have college, so years 11 and 12 chemistry as assumed knowledge though. So if you are feeling as though you're not confident with that material, perhaps you've never studied it before, perhaps you did year 12 a little while ago, or you're one of the many students who's just done year 12 chem and said that you just hated it and you really didn't like it and just want a refresher. If you are in Bachelor of Science or Bachelor of Science Biomedical Science, you have space for open electives. And we actually really strongly recommend you then take an open elective this semester called Chemical Foundations. What we can actually do is swap out, instead of professional orientation in science, we kick that out to next semester, and that opens up an open elective space for you here to take that unit. Cannot recommend it enough. As a person who used to be program director, I would see heaps of students who just weren't quite aware that this was the case, and then understandably found that unit really challenging. And we don't want you to fail a required unit because you've got to wait a whole extra year to take it. And for most of you sitting in the room, it stops a prerequisite chain. So you actually can't start some of your second year required units until you've passed that chemical concepts. So I highly recommend jumping into that. Margarita can talk you through how to change your study plan if you want to, or the education team can as well. If you're in medical science, unfortunately, you guys don't have open elective space to jump into this one, but we do actually have a bridging course that runs over winter if you would like some additional support. And once again, feel free to come to chat to one of us at the end of this session or to our education team, and we'll post some information about it on that campus site in advance for you. But yeah, definitely a good one to take if you're not feeling that confident with chem.
Yeah, it's great advice, and especially coming from the unit convener, okay? So yeah, it's very important. So consider that. You don't have to tell us right away, but you can come and talk to us, okay? So a heads up on this.
Secretly, I'm just trying to drum up a little more business. So if you come do it, that'd be great.
Okay, so let's just summarize a little bit all of this. So course advice, if you need help, very important that your first port of call is going to be going into this little website and the digital handbook. So always send an email to this email address, scientechstudentinquiries@canberra.edu.au. If the education team needs a little bit of extra help, that's when that will be escalated either to David or me as program directors, okay? And now we got some time. I think it's going to be afternoon tea in 15 minutes, if I remember. So we have a little afternoon tea, guys. And yeah, just take it as an opportunity to come and talk to us or start introducing yourselves. That's another important thing that we didn't really mention. As you progress through different units, you will have to work as a team. Teamwork is very important, okay? I know sometimes you go, oh, I'd rather work by myself because I'll get it done. But no matter what you do later on after uni, if you go into the public service or even us here at uni, we work as a team. We are always a team. And each one of us is like putting a puzzle together. So each one of us is a different puzzle, a different piece of that puzzle. So at the end, we have a product. Okay, so think about that. And it's also a good way to socialize, especially after all of this COVID situation. we sort of lost a little bit of socializing skills, but I do recommend that you just start talking to people, introduce yourselves. I will also recommend that if English is not your first language, doesn't matter, just give it a go. And if you don't feel very confident, talk to your lecturers about that too. That's very important because you will have some units where you have to do presentations, okay? And if you don't say anything, the lecturer will assume that you didn't want to participate. And if that wasn't the case, just, yeah. So communication is key when you're at uni as well. Okay, that's it from my end. Did I miss anything else? Okay, so if you have any questions, come and talk to us. And welcome again to semester 1. I'm sure we will see you around. If by any chance I see you around again, I'm sorry, I'm very bad with names, but I will remember faces, okay? So just say hi, wave at me. Sometimes I'll be in my own world as well. So just say hi, stop by my office. I'm more than happy to say hello to all of you, okay? All right, well, thank you for coming. And yeah, we'll see you next week, I'm sure.
Do you guys know where the